Hi, this is James Gordon here with the 8th book review in the James Bond series. The book I'll be talking about today, For Your Eyes Only. Very nice cover. This is there we go. This is from Joy Books, and this edition is from June 1981. This was originally published by Jonathan Cape on April 11, 1960. This is a collection of 5 short stories written by Ian Fleming, which feature James Bond. Um, Now, before, all the James Bond books have been novels. This is the only collection in the series, and the reason why Ian Fleming did a collection of short stories was that originally, after Casino Royale, the BBC TV show they did very well. The BBC was interested in doing a James Bond TV series with Ian Fleming, so he wrote like 5 ideas for episodes, but then the BBC canceled the project, so he took those 5 ideas and turned them into short stories instead of turning them into full-length novels. Which I felt that if Ian Fleming wasn't such a heavy smoker and drinker, he could have really fleshed out some of those short stories into full-length novels, and he could have made them a lot more interesting. Like this collection was decent. Like some of the stories were okay. They were decent and they had their good moments, but I just felt these could have been so much better if they were full-length novels because Ian Fleming could have fleshed out a lot more into the plots, the characters, and just added more to the stories. But this is okay. Like it's a decent read. Out of the 5 stories, 2 of them I really liked. The last one was okay. The first one, I felt that one could have been better. But the one story that I did not like, Quantum of Solace, which was the most boringest one, and I'll explain more about that in my review on why I didn't like that story and the things I liked with the other stories and the ones I didn't like. All right, on to the book review. From a View to a Kill, a dispatch motorcycle rider of Shape, Supreme Headquarters Allied Power Europe is on a route to deliver a top-secret document to Versailles, France to Station F in St. Germany. While speeding down the open road with a field of flowers on one side and a thick forest on the other, the rider spots another motorcycle coming up fast. He moves over and slows down a bit to allow the rider to pass. To his horror, the rider takes his hands off the handlebars, pulls out a Luger pistol, and shoots him. The bike drives off the road and crashes into a field. The killer gets off his motorcycle and takes the man's wallet, watch, and documents, then flees. Meanwhile, James Bond is drinking at a cafe after a failed mission as he's waiting to leave Paris and return back to London when a black Peugeot 403 speeds through traffic and pulls up to the cafe. Mary Ann Russell, a female agent for the French Secret Service, has come to pick up Bond for a mission as she tells him dive crashed, which is a slang term used by submarine crews meaning a mission has gone wrong. James pays for his drink and gets in the car with Mary as they drive to the headquarters of Shape. She explains what the job is and states M picked Bond because he was in the area and offered to help out Shape. James thinks it's a waste of time but has no choice but to accept the job. Upon reaching HQ, James is told very little about what the rider was carrying or anything else and isn't being helpful. James goes to where the body was found and believes there is something more going on here. With little to go on, James comes up with a plan to draw out the killer. However, Mary is against it, believing it will get him killed, but James orders her to file his plan to M along with Shape. Disguising himself as a dispatch rider goes the same route the previous rider did. It isn't long till the killer appears with his Luger at the ready, but James shoots first with his Colt 45 revolver, killing the pursuing rider. James then uncovers a Soviet plot where Russian agents are hiding out in an old gypsy camp that the Soviets are using. 2 agents appear as James attempts to arrest them, but they try to murder him. James kills one, but is nearly killed by the other, but is saved when Mary appears, killing the second Soviet agent. James tells her to call HQ and bring backup as the two go to investigate the campsite. For Your Eyes Only. A British couple, Mr. and Mrs. Havelocks, living in Jamaica, are murdered by Herr von Hammerstein along with 2 Cuban hitmen after the Havelocks refuse to sell their estate. Their bodies are discarded after their daughter, Judy, returns home. A month later, M brings James in for a personal matter. He explains the deaths of the two close friends and was the best man for Mr. Havelock's wedding back in 1925. Using his connections, M has tracked down the men responsible for the cruel act. Major Gonzalez and Von Hammerstein are staying at their estate at Echo Lake in Vermont. James takes a plane to Canada and is given a hunting rifle with a high-powered scope and other gear from Commander Johns. He travels through the wilderness and bumps into Judy, armed with a bow and arrow, who's hell-bent on killing Ver Hammerstein herself and refuses to back out or allow James to get close to her. Knowing he has no choice, James teams up with Judy as the two track down their targets. After setting up in different parts of the forest, Judy takes a shot, killing Von Hammerstein in the back. James begins picking off the guards with the sniper rifle as Judy is wounded in the arm. He is able to kill Major Gonzalez close range with the rifle. James helps Judy with her wounds and promises to take her to London to meet M, and thanks for the helping him out, and she too thanks James. Risico. James is sent to Italy to investigate and bust a drug smuggling operation that's sending drugs to England. Reaching Rome, James takes a train to Venice to meet his contact. Waiting for him at a bar is CIA informant Cristados. He tells James their enemy is Enrico Colombo, a big powerful man from Colombia. However, Cristados wants a lot of money for data he feeds James, which he accepts. Gaining more information from a woman who's been hanging around Colombo, James goes to sing on board his ship, but is held at gunpoint and knocked out by one of Colombo's men. James learns that Cristados is the one behind the drug operation and was only using him. Colombo will help James if only he promises that the drugs don't come back from Italy again. With the aid of Colombo's men, they assault a warehouse, destroying all the drugs and killing Colado's men. Colado tries escaping in his black Atlantia convertible. James draws his Walter PPK and quickly caps off a few shots. He is able to score a headshot, killing Cristados as the car drives off the road and crashes. Colombo thanks James for his help and gives him a key to a hotel room with a woman waiting for him. The Hillbred Rarity. While out fish hunting in the Seychelles Islands, James is invited to join Fidel Barbie on the cruise with American billionaire Milton Crest along with his wife Elizabeth. Milton challenges the two men to search for a rare fish, the Hildebred Rarity. During the cruise, James learns that Milton is a cruel and mean man who insults anyone over the slightest thing and even beats his wife with a stingray tail he dubs the Corrector. After reaching an island, Milton continues to insult and joke with his guests, annoying James, Barbie, and Elizabeth. When both men spot the fish, they are unable to capture it. Angered, Mr. Crest kills it and several other fish by poisoning the water, which disgusts James. During the night on the yacht, Milton gets drunk and insults his guests, which James grabs him and threatens to beat him if he doesn't knock it off. Elizabeth takes her husband to bed as James goes to cool off by going outside. During the night, everyone hears a terrible scream. When they reach Mr. and Mrs. Crest, they find Milton dead with the Hildebred Rarity stuffed in his mouth and has choked to death. To avoid getting caught in a murder investigation, James dumps the body of Milton overboard and cleans up the crime scene. They return to port and Barbie fakes James for coming as he and Elizabeth leave the yacht with smiles on their faces. James wonders if one of them or both murdered Milton Crest together, but decides not to get involved in this mess. For Your Eyes Only was a decent collection of short stories featuring James Bond. While I felt most of these short stories would have been better if Ian Fleming could have fleshed them out into full-length novels, improving the plots and adding more to each story. The two stories I liked best were For Your Eyes Only and Risico, but felt they could have been better if Ian wrote them as novels instead. While The Hildebred Rarity was alright, but the one story I did not like at all, Quantum of Solace, was just boring. It's James Bond at a lousy party, bored with the guests and gossip around him, as it mainly focuses on a conversation with another guy about a man who fell in love with a woman only for her to cheat on him, his revenge, and the fall it left him in. Reading Quantum of Solace was so boring, it felt out of place, and began fantasizing what if James Bond just killed everyone just to make it more interesting than the dull conversation he has, and why it's not best to get married. The writing and pacing was alright, but since these are short stories, it moves very quickly as it doesn't take long to get through them. Detail was good, a few interesting locations, and a few moments of action within the stories. Not one of the strongest entries in the James Bond series, but a decent read. Only two films that are loosely based on these short stories: A View to a Kill and License to Kill, featuring Roger Moore and Timothy Dalton. But both of these films flesh out the plots, characters, along with adding more to the stories. Overall, this was a decent read. It's up to you if you want to read this collection of 5 short stories featuring James Bond or not. This collection does not tie in with the novels, as none of these stories are brought up in the later novels, so it's up to you if you want to read it or skip it. And that's it for the review today. Hope you enjoy. Yeah, this was a decent read. Like, as I said, the two stories I liked best were Risco and For Your Eyes Only. Those were the best ones. I really liked the setting in both those stories. Like the first, the For Your Eyes Only, it's set like in the wilderness in Vermont, and it's like a forest area where James Bond takes on these like cruel men. He's got this daughter that's hell bent on killing these men armed with a bow and arrow. So that I really enjoyed that. I would have liked it if it was a bit longer though. And the same with Risk of Code. That was another interesting one set in Italy. And James Bond takes on like a drug smuggling operation, and the whole like assault on the warehouse. I really enjoyed that part, along with James Bond finally using his Walter PPK after it just basically just being like in scenes where he just draws it, pulls it out, but doesn't use it. He finally uses it in this story, and it's like about time. But the scene where he takes down the Crisco guy and he crashes his car, I really enjoyed that scene. So those were the two stories I like best. The Hildebred Rarity was kind of like a murder mystery almost, where it even decided to do like put James Bond in a murder mystery setting instead of a spy thriller. This story was okay. Like I wish there was like more to the plot, like Bond uncovers something that Militant Crust is up to, so that would have made it more interesting. I did like how the guy dies. Like he is obsessed with catching this fish so badly, the Hildebred Rarity. He finally gets it, and then the thing is shoved down his throat in like one of the best scenes. I thought, there you go. Now you have the fish with you for eternity. So I enjoyed that part, and James Bond like just tossing his body over. I wish he said like some like insulting joke, which would have been perfect, because this guy's been busting James Bond's balls ever since he got on the ship, and the part where he like threatens to fight, and if he doesn't knock it off, I thought, I really wish James Bond just said something like after he tosses the dead body overboard. I just wish he said something like, like tonight you'll be sleeping with the fishes, Mr. Crest, or something like that. Like something like corny and funny. I would have enjoyed that. The very first story, uh, From a View to a Kill, I really did not like this one. That one felt really boring. It is very simple, and I thought, well, the scene of the beginning part where the messenger on the motorcycle gets shot and crashes in this like very scenery, like fields with flowers in the forest. That part I thought was good. I just wish there was more to the story to make it better. The ending, I will admit, was interesting, so I did have that. It was the first story I felt could have been better, but Quantum of Solace was the most boringest one, and I did not like the story at all. And to the point where I just skipped it towards the end. I said screw this story. I just skipped it because it was so boring. It's just James Bond at this lousy party. He doesn't like the guests, the food, the gossip. He's not happy. Why are you here? Why don't you find something else to do instead of going to these like shitty parties? So so the whole story, it doesn't revolve around a mission he's on or anything like Smirsh or anything. No, this whole story is just him talking with this governor, um, about he's saying, oh, if I was to get married, I would marry one of the air servants or something, like the flight attendants. And the guy basically tells him, no, you don't want to do that. That will not end well for you. And basically tells a story about a guy who did that and what happened to him and the things he did to this uh, wife that cheated on him to get back at him, only to end it terribly for him. And I thought, what was the point of this story? Like, are you like, I noticed that some of the stories James Bond considers about retiring and getting married, but he never does this. And I thought, why is Ian Fleming bringing this up all the constantly? Like, I just don't get it. Like, he just keeps bringing this up throughout the books, and it's like James Bond is like he loves having fun with women and stuff, but after he's done with them, he just moves on to the next one. Like, he doesn't seem interested in like forming a long-lasting relationship. And I thought, why are you interested in getting married if you just go from one woman to the next? So I just felt the story was boring, and then I was getting so bored. I just thought, you know what? What if James Bond just drew his gun and just started killing all the guests around? That would have been more entertaining, more fun if that happened. So I was like fantasizing him drawing his Walter PK, putting like an extended magazine and just shooting everyone in a graphic way, and I thought that would have been more fun. But sadly, that's not what happens in Quantum of Solace. um, so this was a decent rate. It was okay, and as I said, the only two films that are loosely based on the short stories, as I said, were From a View to a Kill with Roger Moore and License to Kill with Timothy Dalton. I felt these films really took these short stories and fleshed them out a lot better, like improving the plot, characters, and setting, and they're very good films. The From a View to a Kill is well, it's loosely based on From a View to a Kill, and the only thing that it took from the short story was the opening part in Paris. That was it. So that's the only part that story uses. It doesn't use anything from Shape or anything else. And then License to Kill is heavily based off of Risco, and again they take the drug smuggling plot and improve it so much better. And they also use parts from Live and Let Die, where Felix and his wife are brutally murdered by this Colombian like drug cartel guy, and that was a really good movie. So I felt those two films were really good. The Quantum of Solace with Daniel Craig was just an absolute bore. I don't like those. As I said earlier, like the only two Daniel Craig films that I liked with James Bond were Skyfall and No Time to Die. Those were the only two films I liked because those felt like spy thrillers. They were not straight up action movies. Like those first Bond films with Daniel Craig felt more like Michael Bay movies. It's just this over the top action. They're just over the top, and they're not fun films to watch. They're kind of a mess. It's like they're constantly going like reusing things from the past to bring new things in, and I felt the stories were not really that good. And Quantum of Solace was absolutely like a mess. I just thought it's all over the place, and then at one point it does a scene like from Goldfinger where a woman is killed where she's like covered in oil, and I thought, okay, that's just lame. You're just essentially just taking something from the previous film but changing one thing around with it. And the final assault on this like guy's base, it's the camera is so shaky. It's like it's hard to watch, and I was like getting a bit of a headache just trying to watch this action sequence with this base exploding around them and James Bond's fighting the guy, and it's just a mess. So I did not enjoy that film at all. And For Your Eyes Only, I didn't like that film. My problem with some of the Roger Moore films is that the studio kept doing this thing where they kept adding like silly humor and goofy parts to it, where they were trying to make it serious at the same time. And the problem is that some of these Roger Moore films, they go too goofy and not making it like more serious. I want it to be kind of like in the middle, where it has the right amount of humor and it has the right amount of like moments where it gets serious. Like that's where I want James Bond films to be, in the middle, where I'm having fun, and they're spy thrillers. They're not like full on action movies and stuff. So yeah. So overall, For Your Eyes Only was a decent read. All right, if that's it for the review today. Hope you enjoy it. And for the ninth book in the James Bond series, I'm getting there. Thunderball. I really enjoyed the movie of this one with Sean Connery, so I'm hoping to enjoy the book as well. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, and please don't forget to subscribe to October Library, the YouTube channel, and the Facebook group with the same name, and please post your review of fiction. Until then, I'll catch you later.